And welcome to your next video on the empowered eating sabotages. So this one is on escapism, and that can be a strategy that you're running, and it's the reason why you emotionally eat, because you're looking to escape your current life. Now, where does this kind of coding, and if you've been following my videos for a couple of weeks, you'll understand that our coding comes from the ages of 0 to 7, and then we spend our childhood, teenage years, and early adulthood backing up this thought and belief that we have about ourselves that created from the ages of 0 to 7. And it can be something very, very simple. Usually, and I'll share mine, I broke my sandals when I was 5 years old and mum was angry. And from there, I made a thought and belief about myself. I had to be perfect for everybody to love me. So if I didn't make my mum angry and I was the perfect little child and got straight A's in everything, then of course, I could obviously win over my mother's love. And that's pretty sad that that's what a child has come up with, but that's that thought and belief about ourselves. And when we're talking to the mini-me, that 0 to 7-year-old you, unfortunately, they don't have the emotional capability that you have to this day, and you can't put logic and reasoning to what the mini-me thought at the ages of 0 to 7. So just forgive mini-me for having that behavior around food, please, because they, back then, just created this thought and belief about themselves, and you've now spent the rest of your life backing up this thought and belief. So let's talk about escapism, and this one can come from you were given too much responsibility as a child. And I've spoken to a couple of my clients, and they were the eldest, and because they were the eldest, they had to look after the younger children. And when you're 10-year-old and you can't actually play in the backyard because you have responsibilities like cooking dinner or minding the children, then that's too much responsibility for a 10-year-old. And it's too much responsibility that they didn't actually get to play. So one of the strategies I use with them is I encourage them to do things that they should have done as a child. All those childlike hobbies that they really enjoyed, they start to do those as an adult. And I was the eldest of 3, and I did look after my brothers a lot. And for me, I like to rollerblade because that gives me that escapism. But where does escapism not work? So escapism doesn't work when my client, and I give an example where one of my clients, she is celiac and she actually shouldn't be eating any gluten. But what she'd do, she'd have a high stressful day at work, couldn't deal with anything that was happening. She'd go home and binge on all the gluten. And what would happen, she'd get a big swollen belly, and from there she got to escape from going to the gym the next morning. She didn't have to wear pretty clothes. She felt like crap. And from there she got to actually escape life. So what she really was looking for was a way to escape because she was sick of all the responsibility. And it showed up in food, which is that unresourceful behavior around food. But if I had talked to her earlier and we actually unraveled it, we found out that it was actually because she took on too much responsibility as a child, and then she took on a huge responsibility of looking after her parents as a 20-something-year-old. So all of this thought and belief about being responsible flipped out to she needed to escape, and the way that she would escape is with food. And I also find this with clients that have binge shopped as well. They go shopping and they just max out the credit cards because it's all this thought and belief about I need to escape, too much responsibility, I can't deal. And then from there, unfortunately, they've got this unresourceful behavior and habit around binging constantly. Another one that may have happened in your childhood was that you were coded that you get rewarded with food. And this is a big one for me, having to break the coding from your mum or your grandparents or your father who actually rewarded you with food. I had a client that whenever she got straight A's in school, her father actually took her out for dinner. So she had this food equals reward. Food must be worked for, and therefore she was binging out of control because she felt like she had to reward herself because she was having a really awesome go at her career, but unfortunately that's that unresourceful behavior. So it's all about responsibility and escapism, and obviously being rewarded with food from a childhood. So these are things that can show up in your adult life because of your coding from childhood. Another one is enmeshing, and enmeshing is when a parent takes on the child to step in the place of that partner. So if, let's say it was a mother and the communication with the father isn't very effective and they're not working through their relationship problems, she actually turns to my client for help. And she downloads all the emotional crap that's going on with the marriage onto my client, and my client is a child. They don't need to take on that responsibility, that emotional responsibility. They shouldn't need to problem solve the things that are going on in the adult marriage, but because the mother is enmeshing on my client, she then creates this habit as a teenager to escape through food. And then you can see how that plays out into her adult life. And then she has this habit of emotionally binge eating to escape anything and everything in her life. Another way this plays out is little girl and woman strategy. So I have a client that she was playing little girl strategy, and little girl strategy is about whinging and whining and not showing up authentically and just playing victim. And whenever she played victim and the drama queen came out in her, and that turned out in her marriage, she'd also binge eat as well. But she was not using a woman strategy by speaking up and actually talking out loud what her needs are and communicating effectively with her partner. Instead, she'd go play victim. She'd go binge eat and whinge and whine at her partner. So you can see how this effective communication hasn't actually flowed to being an adult and being a grown woman. So have a look at your life, see where this coding has come from, and you'll find a lot of these 7 sabotages interlock somehow. And you may have 1, 2, or even 3 of these sabotages. So stay tuned every single week, and I'll be sharing the videos with you of all the different sabotages, and hopefully I can help you have an empowered relationship with food, because you deserve to have an empowered relationship with food. When food is no longer an issue and you're not using a binging strategy and feeling guilty and crap about yourself, it opens up space for you to be an empowered woman. And an empowered woman goes after those promotions. They become an awesome role model for their children, and they turn up authentically to their partner because they have that inner confidence and that inner happiness. And I want that for you. You deserve that. So let's do the work together. Work on all your sabotages so that you can have that empowered relationship with food. Thank you for listening, and I will talk to you next week, tribe. Take care.